Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at Tilray brands. It is time for another update, and on this chart we have an interesting movement that has occurred here since the all-time low. And even though we have here an all-time downtrend basically formed on this chart, we are having here an interesting opportunity to be looking for a potential larger uptrend to be forming, since we have managed to form here an initial potential 5-wave move to the upside. Now, this structure comes with a caveat that I have brought up in a couple of the previous videos, and that is that within this wave 3 we haven't managed to get to the ideal target for such a movement, for such a wave, which is the 138.2% extension. In fact, we haven't managed to get even to the previous target, the 123.6% extension of the wave 1, which, it mostly affects the likelihood that after a correction in a wave 4 we get a 5th wave to the upside, and suggests that failure is rather more likely. It also still affects the overall reliability of this larger wave to the upside. Now, with that said, this did not break any rules that we need to have for a 5-wave move to the upside, and we have the area of support for a wave 2 to be tracked, and we can basically still be looking for continuation higher in a wave 3, especially since within this wave 2 correction we have only formed an ABC structure to the downside, basically perfectly into the 61.8% retracement, and have already created a substantial reaction, a substantial reversal that honestly at this point may even be able to consider an initial internal wave 1 to the upside. Now, if we want to consider that this wave 2 has already bottomed, we can start looking for some ideal targets for a couple of different scenarios in a following uptrend of larger proportions. And here in a wave 3 we would expect again to reach the 138.2% extension of the wave 1. That would be at around the $94 level, and if this is to be only a larger ABC movement, that honestly could be even part of the larger correction within the downtrend, since keep in mind, while we don't need to continue in this downtrend, we have sufficient waves for an ABC structure. Nothing is really preventing it from having further lows form on this chart. Now, with that said, in such a structure we would still like to get to the ideal target within a wave C, which is the 100% extension of the wave A, the $45 level in this case. Now, keep in mind, this is an ideal target. We don't need to get there and we don't need to stop there, but we will be tracking internally a 5-wave move to the upside in either case, and we will be able, or we should be able in most cases, to determine with decent accuracy when we should expect to have a full count, although of course extensions can always occur. I had just recorded a video on Rocket Lab where clearly we are seeing an extension of the count that we were tracking in the previous video, and that is not a problem. That was basically the minimum that I would have required for the larger structure to form a 5-wave move to the upside, but an extension is not a problem. It is always welcome and needs to be, basically because the market can always do what it wants. Now, within this structure internally, again, we did hold the area of support. We have broken out of it. Now we are doing some dipping back into it, but we have basically a couple of patterns that we are tracking. And firstly, we have a bearish scenario here in orange that would allow a more direct further continuation in our larger downtrend, or at least a reset within this wave 2 in green. And here in this case we are tracking the levels between the $11 all the way up to the $17.8 level at the 78.6% retracement. And surely enough, it is relevant because we have pushed here basically perfect into the 61.8% retracement one time before getting rejected, and then we had another attempt to break out, but again we got rejected even more severely. Now, this is not a problem because along those pushes, along those patterns, we have been building the internal structures that we would need to build our larger move to the upside, where in a bullish interpretation we are focusing here on a couple of scenarios that would allow a larger 5-wave move to be occurring. Now, within the blue interpretation, we are tracking from the local low here within the wave 2, a potential initial wave 1 to the upside, a wave 2 down, and then a third wave that would now be complete, where we would still be looking for a 4th wave correction within a larger leading diagonal to be forming. Now, in such a scenario, I would need to adjust the current area of support with the current wave 3 top, and I would be looking here at the levels between the $13, yeah, that is the first level of support, all the way down to the $9.6 level at the 61.8% retracement, where so far we have pushed basically perfectly into the 50% retracement, where honestly at this point we may even have a bottom in place. And then within the wave 3, or not within the wave 3, within the white scenario, I have mentioned that if we aren't to get into this area of support before continuing higher, I would be considering rather an extension within this wave 3. And I would do this, I would be tracking still further extensions higher here within the white scenario, but we wouldn't necessarily manage to hold here the levels of support for a wave 4 correction. We have broken below those levels. And while I cannot track further extensions here within a white scenario, because again, in the white scenario, we are tracking a possible truncation of the wave 2, of the wave 2 in green, where I would consider this the actual bottom. Yeah, it makes the scenario less cleanly, let's say, but it would be tracking a bottom here where we would be looking for a large 5-way move to the upside to have formed afterwards. And honestly, I would most likely need to consider it complete and would need to make probably some adjustments and allow it to be even within a diagonal structure in of itself. And in that case, I would extend the wave 1 here. I would move the wave 2 here. The wave 3 remains the same, but the area of support would have been for the wave 4 correction slightly adjusted to a point that, yeah, this basically allows it to have perfectly touched, where if we consider this movement to be the wave 3 within this white scenario, we could consider this to have been the wave 4 in white and have here a fifth wave that would allow a complete structure within this larger leading diagonal. Now again, this is considering a truncation, and it now has a full 5-wave move to the upside to the point that I can be tracking a larger initial wave 1 up to be in place, and in such a scenario we would have a support zone that would be heavily overlapping with the interpretation in blue. Yeah, because for the white scenario we have here a 1-2 setup, for the blue scenario we have a wave 3 and a wave 4 correction. The wave 4 area of support is for the entire wave 3, which, yeah, allows such areas of support to have such heavy overlap. Now again, in white we will be tracking this as a 1-2 setup, and we would be expecting a quite substantial and strong third wave to follow afterwards, where in the blue scenario we would like to see still another high before forming our larger wave 1 up and a larger wave 2 correction. Both scenarios are equally likely to occur at this point in my opinion. Yeah, based on market sentiment, based on news that may come out, one or the other scenario may be more favored and may get a leg up, yeah, basically an advantage. But in the end, at this point, there is no preference between these two scenarios, and in both of them we expect to still continue higher. Now again, there is still the orange area of resistance that could form a more significant ABC structure, and yeah, would basically allow a top to already be in place. We cannot take for granted these areas of support. They are no guarantee that the structure will move up. They are just here to show us how long these interpretations are likely, where if we fail to hold here the 61.8% retracement in the blue scenario, yeah, I would probably not even consider it with or to the same degree as the white interpretation. And if we fail to hold here even the 78.6% retracement, I would be rather prepared than not for a complete failure and a reset, at least within the wave 2 in green. And for now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.